Back again live from the floor of Venture Atlanta and another busy day. And we are here at the Atlanta Innovation Studio powered by MailChimp. I'm Alex Gonzalez. I'm here with Lisa Calhoun, good friend.
Glad to be here, Alex.
Valor Ventures. Lisa, it's so great to talk to you. Of course, you know, I've gotten to know Valor, of course, very well over the years. And so I just don't want to assume everybody knows about it. So talk to people about Valor because it's a pretty cool story of why you started it and what you're really trying to do.
Thank you so much. You know, Valor is 5 years old.
Wow.
And I remember I started it as a serial founder, going to places like Venture Atlanta and feeling like, wow, there's so much more. I mean, as magnificent as this is, you know, we still invest 95% of venture capital in white male founders. And so what that does for our inclusion is represses it, you know?
Right.
And so Valor Ventures was founded as a venture capital platform to invest at the seed stage with inclusion at its core. And that's led to a portfolio today, 5 years later, that's an amazing group of founders. 75% of the portfolio today is led by women and founders of color. Yeah. And there's some real heroes here in Atlanta.
And I think it's really important too to know with Valor and kind of the investments you're making, it's a very intentional in its inclusion, but it's about making money. So your investment thesis is there are founders that are women or founders of color that are going to outperform the market, right?
Well, actually, the two go together. Like, where did the idea ever come up that inclusion was against performance?
Yeah.
That is so disproven by so many studies.
That's
I
right.
get tired of citing them all. So the fact is, inclusion is a factor in most of the most successful companies. And there's a lot to support the belief that investing with inclusion not only generates the kind of returns that you get from the very best performers, but it also creates a cycle of wealth equality and new wealth creation that's truly the American dream.
So what's as you started looking for founders, what are the kind of the challenges you see that founders are having? You know, what's kind of the advice you'd be giving them, particularly if they're a founder of color or a woman founder that may have not be familiar with the system?
You know, I think one of the biggest challenges right now is how to price that first round. You know, as we're sitting here and the stage behind us, founders are pitching for their seed round. And it's a really frothy market right now, globally, nationally, and right here in the Southeast.
Right.
And so if you're up there for the first time looking for your lead seed investor, they want to know sort of where you see the value of the company going.
Right.
And I don't like to talk to founders who don't see the value of their company at $1 billion or more today, but that's not where you are right now. And so I think that pricing, how pricing is thought about near history, what's coming next with the economy, is really a hard subject for founders to navigate. They're usually very at home in the problem they're solving, and they know they want to be a magnificent, massive company, but from here to there, pricing it for your investors is certainly more of an art than a science.
Absolutely.
And it's a real difficult conversation.
And this is where having good also people around you to help you on that journey too, people who've been around as well. So let's shift a little bit to Atlanta, obviously, you know, and it's great to see so many, not just so many companies being born, but so many venture funds being born too, as it become a center of capital, which I think is important. But what's your reaction, or how do you think about that? I mean, we talk about an amazing time to be in Atlanta. I mean, the unicorns are born every day.
Yeah.
Companies are moving in every day, big corporations, big global tech companies. So kind of how have you seen over the last 5 years, even just with Valor, what's your reaction to this journey we're on?
Atlanta absolutely has the DNA to build the future American civilization we want to live in.
Wow, that's right.
You know, right here, right now, we are blessed to live in the future because we live in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And when you look at the innovation coming out of our great schools like Georgia Tech that literally set the bar in places like computer science and AI engineering, when you look at the opportunity of our very inclusive population with our Hispanic founders, founders of color, female founders, and everyone else, it's amazing. Only in the Southeast and only in Atlanta do you have the density of diverse executives, the density of diverse founders, and the pipeline of tier one education that brings up those generations that fuel first-class companies.
Right.
The world has changed, and we're at the fore of it right here. And I'm so glad we're in Atlanta right now, because I really feel like that the ball has moved, and it is here.
Right, absolutely. And we have to do something with it too as well, and kind of define what that is. And you talk about the corporations as well, of course, a huge corporate center. But you've been able to take advantage of that as well too with Valor.
Yes.
So talk a little bit.
No. I mean, one of the things we do that is so dear to my heart is one of our sourcing programs.
Yep.
So if you want to lead seed and do it well, like we do at Valor, you have to really focus on that pipeline, which is pre-seed. And so we're very fortunate that Mecca Tart, our executive director, runs one of our sourcing platforms called Startup Runway. Now, Startup Runway is organized as an independent nonprofit.
Right.
What's nice about that is, we don't invest in pre-seed, and it's wonderful to share that pipeline with every other investor who's interested in it.
Right.
And one of the ways that we bring, our strength in founders of color and female founders to the table is by offering grants at pre-seed. And those are underwritten by some of Atlanta's fantastic companies like Cox Enterprises, which is our presenting sponsor.
Yeah, great company here in Atlanta.
Great company. We're also really lucky to have Georgia Power and Truist and others at the table from here in Atlanta.
Right, and it's great. And Cox is a great example. All our companies are, but they're a great example that they support Startup Runway, they do Techstars, they do so much.
Yes.
And then not to mention their own internal innovation that they drive. And I do want to make sure that you talk a little bit about Startup Runway. Talk a little bit more about it, like how often is it? Because it's really become like the leading showcase for
Thank you, Alex. I remember shaking your hand at like the second one ever,
goodness,
right?
Yeah, it's amazing how much it's grown.
It's grown a lot.
Yeah.
So we just ran the 12th Startup Runway. We're going to do the 13th in December.
Wow.
So it's coming up on December 9th. We're giving away 2 grants, and we're recruiting finalists now. So Startup Runway is a connection platform for investors who write first checks to startups led by women and founders of color.
Yeah.
So it's a very specific pipeline. We sort through hundreds of startups per showcase, and then our committee, which is definitely not run by Valor. We have a lot of voices on that committee, including West Coast investors. It's a cool crew. But they use our software platform, and they rate and score and stack all these pre-seed opportunities from women and founders of color, and the top 10 gets showcased on our stage in front of investors like SoftBank and Mavron and America's Impact Fund and Harlem Capital and amazing investment firms.
So it's a great platform. So Lisa, thanks for everything you've been doing, first of all. So with Valor and with Startup Runway, and just being active in the ecosystem. I think everybody keeps talking here and then on stage about collaboration in Atlanta. And I think it's the people and the collaborative nature that brings everybody together. And one thing we didn't talk about, the people involved with Valor are from all over the ecosystem as well too, which is fantastic. So thank you for everything you're doing. And
you're so welcome. Thank you for everything the Chamber does. The Chamber was one of the first organizations to show up at Startup Runway, and I mentioned shaking your hand, but you were there on behalf of the Chamber and opening doors. I feel like the Metro Atlanta Chamber kicks down doors so that others can walk through, and that's something that I really...
People know what they're doing, do what they do. That's what we want. Whenever a founder asks, how can we help? Become a unicorn, blow up, do well, raise tons of money. And then everybody do their thing. So thank you.
Great speaking with you.
And thanks everybody. And we'll continue here shortly, live from the floor of Venture Atlanta at the Atlanta Innovation Studio, powered by MailChimp.